What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, I wanted to showcase some Golisopod gameplay in the Open Great League. This Pokemon is a pick I've used in Ultra League quite a few times in previous seasons, as well as this season, since the Aqua Jet buff, but because I haven't tried it out in Open Great League, I'm very interested to see what it can do. It has a very efficient moveset of Shadow Claw, Exeter, and Aqua Jet, very strong moves. It is a little bit squishy, but this Pokemon looks like a lot of fun, so let's get into the battles and see what it can do. First game of the day, we're going to see our Clodsire lead into a Tinkaton, a very good lead matchup for us here. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. In comes a normal type Pokemon, an instant swap into a Furret. I don't have a hard response to this, so instead of going instantly into our Cradilly, I'm going to go for a Sludge Bomb to chip them down just a little bit more, and now absorb the energy on my Rock type Pokemon. I do know that while I am a Rock type that can resist the normal type damage, the Trailblazes here will end up adding up quite a bit over time, especially with the Sucker Punch damage, so I'm going to try our best here to lower their attack once again with our own Rock Tomb. In comes the Charge Attack. I could see them shielding this move if they want to dance around a little bit this game, but at this point, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle for them because while they did boost their own attack, my Rock Tomb is keeping them in check. In comes the next Trailblaze. I know I survived this move. I should be able to get another Rock Tomb off against this Furret. At this point, we're going to throw it as soon as we can here, but our opponent makes a nice catch on a Tinkaton. While this is a good catch on their part, I have to keep in mind, this is still a decent spot for me to be in. I have tripped them down into range where now an Earthquake will one-shot. It doesn't quite one-shot from full HP, so that chip damage is still pretty nice, and the attack drop going to make it so these Bulldozes are going to do absolutely no damage to us. Bulldoze comes through, no defense drop is really nice to see here. I'm going to throw the Earthquake right before the next Bulldoze to try to make sure if I can, I don't want to get debuffed against this Pokemon. Earthquake does knock out the Tinkaton, and either that Furret could come back in, or maybe we'll see the third. It's actually going to be the third Pokemon that comes in. Interestingly enough, it's a double Fairy team, ABA Fairy with an Azu in the backline. Unfortunately for them, I have Sludge Bomb, which is super effective into this Azumarill. While they do have Ice Beam, I have my Golisopod ready to go. Try to catch the Ice Beam there to be a little bit fancy. It doesn't quite work out for us, but I know while we are in a bit of a bad matchup against this Furret, up the shield advantages that we have, as well as the fact that our Clodsire is still very healthy in the backline, we should easily be able to win this game. Aqua Jet being thrown, this should knock them out at this range, so our Shadow Claw Fast Food Pressure, while it's not doing a lot, is still enough to generate energy, reach the next Aqua Jet, and potentially snap down all of this energy on the Furret. They must have miscounted here. They had a Swift loaded, they never threw it, which means now I'm able to use my Golisopod once again into the Azumarill and be in a very good spot. I don't think they can really bubble us down at this point. If they could, then maybe it could be a bit tricky, but I have 2 shields to my name. There's no way Azu's going to get to 3 charge moves against my Clodsire before I can knock him out, so this game is looking like it's pretty over for our opponent. Aqua Jet being thrown, this should close out the matchup for us, and Golisopod able to take the win in game number 1. GG to our opponent. Alright, next game, we're going to see Clodsire as our lead up against a Lapras, a very bad lead matchup here, but we'll save swap our Golisopod and see what we can do. Sideways are going to be doing neutral damage to us, but no, unfortunately for us, they are not going to stay in. They're going to come in with a Jumpluff, a non-shadow Jumpluff at that, so a very interesting matchup. I know if this Jumpluff is on Energy Ball and Aerial Ace, I don't get one shot by a charge move here. I'm going to try to call the fact that either they bait me or they don't have Acrobatics. They end up going for a charge move, and unfortunately for us, it actually is the Acrobatics here, one-shotting my Golisopod and putting us in a pretty bad spot. This is also pretty awkward because I know there's a Lapras as well as a Jumpluff so far. Likely, whatever their final Pokemon is going to be good into Cradilly. So if that is the case, we're not in a very good spot right now. Let's see what we can do, though. Throw this move right before the next Acrobatics will be reached. Maybe the energy on my Clodsire could be useful later on this game. Sludge Bomb ends up knocking out the Jumpluff. In comes an Annihilate as their final Pokemon. Not much we could do in that match. Alright, next game here, we're going to see our Clodsire as our lead up against a Golisopod of our own, or of our opponents, rather. We'll see if we can end up winning this game, but it will be a little bit tricky, saying they do have super effective Aqua Jet against us, but they don't know that I'm not running Stone Edge. I'm going to throw after 7 Poison Stings, which would be a Poison Sting, or rather a Stone Edge of energy, if I did end up having that charge move. They end up going for the Aqua Jet. It does quite a bit of damage to our Clodsire, but Sludge Bomb is going to be thrown. It might get a shield, but even just getting this damage off would be pretty nice. They do end up shielding. I'm going to swap in my own Golisopod here, try to get more energy wasted from this Pokemon, make it so my Cradilly in the backline won't have to deal with this Bug-type Pokemon. We will shield up this Exeter because at this point they are staying in, might mean that my own Golisopod with HP could be pretty helpful in the backline, and I do want to get rid of their Golisopod if I can. In comes that Exeter. It does a lot of damage, not quite enough though to put them into Shadow Claw downrange before they're able to get to another charge move. I have to no-show this attack up right now, and we'll see what we can do. In comes a Drapion. This Pokemon does have access to Crunch as well as Aqua Tail, so a very spammy Pokemon, and this is also a non-Shadow Drapion, a Pokemon you don't really see too often in the Go Battle League. With that said, I am already at another Aqua Jet, might get a shield from this, and if we do, we might be in a decent spot. In comes the shield from our opponent. The final shield is going to be used up, and now Clodsire is going to try its best to survive a charge move here and invest in our Cradilly in the backline. In comes the Aqua. It does end up letting us survive on just a bit of HP, but we're not quite able to throw the Sludge Bomb before they're able to land this next charge move. I know while the Sludge Bomb is going to be resisted damage, there's not a lot of damage I have left across the board against this Pokemon, so I do want to get any trip that I can. Letting this move probably puts him to a fast move farm down range, but man, going down that final shield means now the Shadow Typhlosion is almost certainly going to be able to land a Blast Burn into my Cradily. My one chance is going for a catch on their Blast Burn. Let's see if we can do it here. I do 3 Bullet Seeds, and then I wait for a second to try to make them think I'm going to catch, but they don't end up overfarming. They're going to be very patient this game. They go for the Blast Burn now against my Cradily, which means we take a massive amount of damage. Honestly, kind of surprised we survived that move, but while I will reach this Rock Tomb, they have a bit of HP remaining on that Drapion, which should be enough at this point to knock out my remaining Pokemon. GG to our opponent. Very tricky game for me. Next matchup is a Clodsire lead into a Shadow Kanto Marowak. Not what we want to see, but Golisopod on the safe swap, going to try its best to flip switch and give us some sort of advantage. In comes the Azu counter swap against our Golisopod safe swap. We'll see what we can do in this matchup, but I know while our Shadow Claws are doing neutral fast food pressure, all of our charge moves are going to be resisted. This is kind of like having Feraligatr into Azu, although if the Feraligatr was non-Shadow, which I mean that matchup is nowhere near as good as it would be for the Shadow Feraligatr, you can see this is just doing so little damage to them every single time I throw a charge move. I'm once again going to shield my Golisopod and see what we can do. Flare Up would not knock us out from this range, but honestly, I feel like the only way I can win this one is if I double shield my Golisopod, keep as much HP as I can on this, maybe get a full farm down if I'm lucky enough here. If I can get enough energy out of this matchup, I might be able to use it against the backline to get my shields back. In comes the next Aqua Jet. Is our opponent going to be able to shield this move and reach another attack, or will they just let this go? They do let it go. I'm going to try to Shadow Claw down. It's going to be so close here. The Shadow Claws just barely knock them out. We have 100 energy on Golisopod. Our opponent ends up top lefting. I guess they couldn't deal with that. Love to see it. GG to our opponent there. Next game is a low kicks in the lead, a very neutral lead matchup, and honestly a Pokemon our backline doesn't necessarily want to see, so I'm pretty happy to deal with it here. I'm not even going to bait the Stone Edge right now. I don't want them to shield this move. I just want the damage onto the slow kicks. They actually do end up shielding anyway, which is a little bit awkward for us. I did want to land that move if I could, but because of that shield, now we're going to take this damage and potentially try to outpace once again to the next Sludge Bomb. Our opponent is going to let this Sludge Bomb potentially land against this, and if it can do a decent amount of damage, maybe I can Shadow Claw this down later on in the game, or maybe they just double shield the low kicks, which is a crazy play in my opinion, but I guess it's the play our opponent is opting to go for. Trailblaze number 2 is going to be thrown. It does a decent chunk of damage to us, but we will be able to survive that. I wait a turn. It doesn't really work out, though, because waiting a turn in this day and age does not work. The visuals don't update, and I still let the move go into the Diggersby. Because I waited a turn 2, it's going to make it so this Diggersby is up 1 quick attack of energy, whereas it should be dry on energy, if the game would have worked as intended, but it's how the game goes, I guess. I go for a Grass Knot instantly against the Diggersby before they can even potentially go for a Scorching Stance debuff, and now they're going to throw the Charge Attack against us. This move could debuff us. I say could, it definitely does debuff us here, which is not great to see. I'm going to go instantly for the Grass Knot because I don't want to take another Charge Attack if I can help it. Grass Knot at this point will knock out the Diggersby, but I am debuffed, which will make my life a little bit tricky here. They might bring in the low kicks. It actually looks like they will bring in low kicks, which means I don't really want to let my Cradily go. I feel like the final Pokemon might be something I want to debuff, so I'm going to shield this move and see what we can do. I'm going to go instantly for the Rock Tomb here, throw on Alignment, which normally is not a good idea, but our opponent's final Pokemon is revealed as a Toxapex. They have a lot of HP left over on that low kicks in the backline as well, which could be a little bit tricky to deal with, but I'm going to double debuff this Toxapex. I'm just throwing on Alignment left and right in this game, but I do need to throw this move as soon as I can, lower this thing's attack as much as possible, maybe get to another charge move if I can. Our opponent is not going to risk it here. They're going to go for the charge move, which will knock us out, but they are a double debuff Toxapex. While Golisopod is a little bit squishy, I think we can survive a double debuffed Sludge Wave here if they opt to go for it. Our opponent is at the Sludge Wave now, but they are overfarming so much, they're going to try to swap out. Very smart play here, and now it's going to come down to the wire if I can win this game. I needed to make sure I didn't take as much fast food pressure as possible. I'm going to try to catch the move instantly on our Clodsire. Good catch by us. I think this is going to be a Sludge Wave, but they might undercharge to try to get a bit of a farm down against us. They get a full poison jab down, which is a little bit scary, but we have an Aqua Jet ready to go. I don't think this is quite enough damage to knock out, but I do know that our Shadow Claws after the fact will knock them out as long as they don't KO us with the Sludge Wave. They reach a charge move here right at the last second. As long as I survive this move, I should be able to Shadow Claw down. Sludge Wave is thrown, but a 1 HP survived Golisopod able to hang on, just barely taking us a win in that game. All right, next matchup is a Clodsire into a Morpeko lead. A lead matchup that generally is pretty good for our Clodsire, but we do have to keep in mind this stupid little mouse has access to Psychic Fangs, which is super effective against our Poison-type Pokemon. In comes the first charge move here. I will opt to let it go, knowing at this point that Clodsire is going to be able to potentially just go and no-shield all these moves, get 2 shields to 0 for our backline, and once shields are down, Morpeko is pretty useless, and Golisopod and Cradily can really start to shine. In comes the next charge move. I know they could go for a Dark type Aura Wheel, but they might also just go straight Psychic Fangs. I can no-shield, I can survive no matter what they throw. They actually do opt for the Psychic Fangs now, and I'm going to go for the Sludge Bomb, once again getting a Protect Shield almost certainly from Morpeko. In comes the Sludge Bomb. Our opponent will shield up the move, so no reason to let them farm up any more energy. I swap into my Cradily, and in comes a Superior here. I go for the instant Rock Tomb as you normally do with a Cradily. It is the best move to throw into a Grass-type Pokemon, and because we're able to debuff them, I know these Frenzy Plants are going to be doing a lot less damage than they would otherwise, and Rock Tomb once again going to be thrown, but not before they're able to throw another move against us. In comes a Frenzy Plant. It will be able to do over half of our HP, so even after this next debuff, I'm not quite so sure I'm going to be able to survive the next Frenzy Plant. Rock Tomb does put them pretty low at this point, but Superior does have a lot of energy. I can't really Bullet Seed this down, but I do want to force all the energy out of them if I can. I think shielding up this move could be the play, force them to throw yet another charge attack against us, and then farm this down with our Golisopod. They do throw yet another charge attack into our Cradily. This is a prime farm down range now for either our Clodsire or our Golisopod, so I'm going to come in Shadow Claw down if I can, and then they come back in Morpeko. I can catch the move on Clodsire and force them to throw as much energy as they can into us here. Psychic Fangs does end up doing quite a bit of damage to us, but we do hang on, and they can't Thundershock us down, meaning now another charge move is going to be thrown. Because of this, I think as long as Golisopod doesn't have a bad matchup in the backline, we should be able to win this game with the shield advantage that we have. I do have to throw a move immediately. Our opponent not going to have any energy to Psychic Fangs us, which means now our Golisopod is going to be up against the world. I just have to hope the final Pokemon is not a hard counter to us in the back. It's going to be a Drifloon here, which is honestly one of the better Pokemon we could see. It's a Pokemon with a 3-turn fast move, which means I can guarantee they don't catch on us here. Go for the Aqua Tail and then, or the Aqua Jet rather, go for the Shadow Claw down after the fact, and then either go for the Farm Down against the Superior, or if we have a charge move, go for the X-Scissor into them and guarantee the knockout against this Grass-type Pokemon. X-Scissor coming through, the Superior is going to be knocked out. Honestly, Shadow Claws could have done it, but might as well guarantee the win that game. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is Clodsire up against a Goodra, actually. Goodra is not the best answer to Clodsire, but honestly, it is a little bit awkward. Dragon Breath does add up quite a bit here. Aqua Tail as well is generally a move that Goodra is going to have, and because of that, they're going to be able to pace evenly to our Sludge Bombs, as well as being able to do a lot of faster pressure. So I think this matchup, the longer it goes on, the better it is for Goodra. I'm going to try, if I can, to maybe catch a move on our Golisopod here in just a second. Right when we get the Sludge Bomb, I knew they would probably try to CMP us, knowing that I would knock them out if I did land my move first. And because of this catch, now that's a lot of wasted energy for this Goodra. I see a Shadow Blastoise come in, and while they do have Rollout, which is super effective into us, my Shadow Claws as well as my X-Scissor are all going to do quite a bit of damage to them, so I'm not in that bad of a spot. X-Scissor is going to end up landing, putting them pretty low on HP, and now I can no-shield this move. I honestly hope it knocks us out to make it so they don't get any extra farm on this Pokemon. Hydro is enough to knock us out here. I can go for an ambitious Bullet Seed down with our Cradily. I'm going to shield this just in case they are on Ice Beam. I don't know if they would be or not, but even a Shadow Hydro Cannon would do quite a bit of damage. I have to start shielding something in this game, and I do get a full Bullet Seed down before the next move is going to be reached. Shadow Typhlosion ends up coming in. They actually swap out here to try to catch a move, and while I don't fall for the catch, I do still have to throw energy against the Goodra. I try to undercharge. It's a little bit too much damage, though, still to knock them out, but I'm still able to get to 2 Rock Tombs here, and I have energy as well left over on my Clodsire. This game is still very much in our favor. Rock Tomb, I guess, yeah, they realize at that point I have too many charge moves, they end up top lefting. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is a Jumpluff in the lead, one of the best lead matchups I could see here. Let's see what we can do in the backline. This is the first time really dealing with it today, but a Shadow Drapion Sayswap is probably one of the most awkward things this team can see. As you can tell, I don't really have a hard answer for this Poison and Dark-type Pokemon. Kind of weird to say, saying this Pokemon's only weakness is Ground-type damage, and I am using a Ground-type on my team, but Clodsire is not really a great Ground-type, right? It's more of a Poison-type offensive pressure Pokemon, so because of that, I'm going to try to do a Chip and Dip, or at the very least draw a Shield, and now come in with our Golisopod and see what we can do in this matchup. In comes a Crunch. It will do a decent amount of damage. Luckily, no defense drop here, but this is still looking pretty awkward for us. I'm not so sure what they're going to have in the backline. I know sometimes it's like Jumpluff and then double things weak to Mud Slap. It could be like a more Peko in the backline. If that is the case, it could be a little bit awkward, but we'll just have to wait and see what our opponent is going to do. I'm going to shield this move knowing that our Shadow Claws will do a lot more damage than our Bullet Seeds or Poison Stings. I go for the X-Scissor and I try to knock out this Drapion, but our opponent, they make a very heads-up play. They swap into their Jumpluff, meaning now they catch the move, and Jumpluff, with the chip damage that I have into my Clodsire, might be able to start putting in work against this Poison-type Pokemon. I'm not sure as well, because this is a non-Shadow Jumpluff. I don't think that our Poison Stings, as well as our Sludge Bomb, will be enough to knock this Pokemon out. This might not be looking too good for us, because if I can't knock this out with my Sludge Bomb, how am I going to finish this off? I'm not so sure that we really can. In comes another charge move from this Jumpluff. I do have to no-shield. I'm hoping for an air lace bait. If I were to shield this move, then while I could knock out the jump bluff, I'd be down shields in the backline. What I think is the play instead is actually just going for an ambitious Bullet Seed down against a Grass and Flying type Pokemon. While Bullet Seed is heavily resisted, I think it will be able to do enough damage over time to potentially knock this out. Maybe I need to go for a catch here. I'm going to try to catch this move right at the last second. And because we do get this proper catch, as long as their final Pokemon is not a hard answer to Cradilly, there might still be some play for us. But there is still that Drapion around, and Morpeko is, in fact, their final Pokemon in this game. Rock Tomb will debuff their attack stat, but it's not going to one-shot them here. So unfortunately, while Morpeko is a very squishy Pokemon, I think they might just get enough utility out of it here that this game is going to be a bit hard to win. Rock Tomb number 2 ends up getting a shield from them, and they go instantly for a Psychic Fangs. This is a very heads-up play. They have almost a crunch, if not already a crunch loaded on that Drapion. All they need to do is put me into range where that one crunch is enough to knock out, and they can do that by landing 2 Psychic Fangs here, which they do reach the second one, which means now, unfortunately, our Cradilly is in range where that crunch will knock us out. Very well played by our opponent here. This Rock Tomb will knock out this Morpeko, but we have no energy remaining for that Poison type in the backline. They should have this game here. Rock Tomb does knock out that little mouse, and now Drapion comes in. They don't have a lot of HP, but just enough to reach this crunch, and yeah, Cradilly, it tries its best here in this backline, but not quite enough to win this game. GG to our opponent. All right, next matchup is Clodsire into a Tinkaton. We saw this lead a little bit earlier today. Not a bad lead matchup, but we'll see what's in the back if they end up staying in or swapping out. They come in with a Shadow for Alligator safe swap. I thought for a second this was a Blastoise. Maybe I should have come in with my Golisopod instead, though, since this is going to be a Shadow for Alligator. They do have access to Ice Beam potentially, which would do a catastrophic amount of damage to Cradilly if it ends up landing. With that said, I don't know how much we really need to switch this game. I'm going to no-shield this move. Ice Beam does end up doing a lot of damage to us, but because our Cradilly is able to survive that after the debuff, I can now shield, go for another Rock Tomb, and either get switch advantage, or maybe just get their final shield. I know Golisopod up a shield is still very powerful into that Tinkaton, so giving up switch is not exactly the worst thing in this game. They actually do just opt to let that move go. They're probably going to get a farm down with something. It's going to be a Shadow Swampert actually that gets a farm down against us, and because we have Golisopod to absorb all of the damage from this, we should be able to win this game. With that said, they do have access to the newly buffed Sludge, so this game is not completely over. They actually do over half of our HP with that charge move here. I'm going to go for an Aqua Jet, try our best to either knock them out or get them low enough that our Clodsire can deal with this later on. Aqua Jet does get their final shield, and I'm going to throw an Aqua Jet when I can, but not before their next move is going to be thrown. Sludge would knock us out. Hydro Cannon likely, though, being thrown. Oh, no, they actually do go for Sludge, so I guess I could have caught that move, but that would have been a crazy catch if I went for it. They actually do go for a catch against our move, which is a good play, but it doesn't really matter for them. I can just overfarm back up to another Aqua Jet before they can reach a move, and then come in with our Clodsire, overfarm even more energy, and make it so they have to throw energy against either my Clodsire or my Golisopod, and they won't have enough energy for both. Heavy Slam is actually the moveset of choice by this Tinkaton. Very interesting stuff here. I'd normally see Bulldoze as the move that you see on these Pokemon, but since this one has Heavy Slam, we're able to overfarm just a bit more energy and not even worry about a defense drop from this move. And comes the Earthquake. This will easily knock out this Tinkaton, and that Swampert is not even at 1 move, let alone 2, and they would need to be at 2 moves and also win CMP over my Golisopod, which is not a very easy feat for a Pokemon like Swampert. We do have a move already ready to go. They do not have the energy required, and we're able to knock out the Swampert, taking us the win in that match. All right, next game, our Clodsire up against a Gastrodon, a Pokemon, once again, not great for us to see in the lead here, but we can safe swap our Golisopod and see what we can do. Golisopod is met, actually, by a Shadow Typhlosion, a Pokemon which is a little bit scary with its fast move pressure, but also a Pokemon that does not hard answer us here. We can potentially, as long as we can survive the next couple of Incinerates, go for 3 Aqua Jets and flip switch advantage in this game. In comes Aqua Jet number 2. Our opponent has not even thrown a move yet. They're trying to go for a full Incinerate down, but it's not going to be quite enough. I not only land 2 Aqua Jets, getting both of their shields, I reach a third, and they haven't thrown anything yet. I get 2 shields and switch advantage with our Golisopod safe swap. And comes the Talon to try its best to farm us down, but the thing is, there's a Talontham and a Gastrodon for our 2 shield advantage Cradilly. Not much they could do. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is a Shadow Pidgeot in the lead. Bit of an awkward Pokemon to see with our entire team, but honestly, Clodsire is one of our better spots to see that into. I was one of the slowest swaps I've ever seen here with his Shadow Annihilate coming in, but we still have our Golisopod to answer this. Well, if I do let a Rage Fist go, they can 2-shield farm me down. I'm not all that concerned, because at this point, if I get shields down, I don't need Switch against that Shadow Pidgeot. I have Rock Tomb in the backline. I can spam out Sludge Bombs as well, so this is not that bad of a matchup for us. Aqua Jet does end up getting a shield here. I could shield this to get a second Aqua Jet off, but honestly, I don't feel like that's going to be too worth it, because if I do get that shield and they just farm us down with Pidgeot, then potentially they can get an energy lead and start Brave Birding my backline. So I'm going to keep my shield advantage, go for the Sludge Bomb to knock out this Annihilate, and this should be able to either get their final shield or KO the boosted Monkey. In comes their final Pokemon. It's a Gastrodon, so we have the Core Breaker once again. 2 shield advantage Dilly able to close out the backline. GG there to our opponent. Our next game is a Shadow Drapion into our Clodsire, a very interesting matchup. Once again, I don't like seeing this Pokemon anywhere, honestly. I guess this is kind of where I need to see it, but Shadow Drapion with Aqua Tail is one of the most oppressive Pokemon for Clodsire to deal with. It's so weird because this is a Poison-type Pokemon. We have Ground-type damage, but we are so slow reaching the Ground-type damage, and they are just so quick reaching the Water-type damage on this Drapion that this matchup does not play out how you might expect just with the raw typings of these two picks. Sludge Bomb bait going to be thrown. Our opponent is going to shield it up, which is very nice to see. And now I'm going to try for an Aqua Tail catch on our Golisopod. We do get it here, which gives us just a little bit of breathing room. Potentially, we can now reach an Aqua Jet, maybe an X-Scissor as well, to be able to knock out this Drapion. Let's see what our opponent's going to do. I go instantly for the Aqua Jet. They make a catch on Azu, but I mean, I'd have to throw this Aqua Jet into this Pokemon anyway, so the only thing they really get out of that is they store a Crunch on that Shadow Drapion, which all things considered is a pretty scary thing, but we can try to use our Shadow, or our Golisopod rather, to overfarm here and keep energy for that Shadow Drapion later on in this game. Aqua Jet being thrown once again. After 2 moves, they're in range where they're about under half HP. The Shadow Claws are going to add up as well against this Pokemon. I can shield up this move. It might be an Ice Beam bait. It might be a Play Rough. We do shield the Play Rough up properly. And now I'm going to try to throw a Charge Move here, or maybe even make a catch on a Play Rough with our Cradilly. If this is an Ice Beam, very well played by our opponent. If it's a Play Rough, though, we're in a good spot. Ice Beam, of course, is what they end up throwing, which means we take a massive amount of damage there. And now we see their final Pokemon is their own Cradilly. This is going to be an interesting game. I have an Earthquake loaded on our Clodsire. I have a lot of energy as well on our Golisopod, but this Cradilly, depending on if it can farm us down here, could put us in a bit of an awkward spot. In comes Rock Tomb. It's not able to put us into Bullet Seed downrange, so honestly at this point, as long as I'm very careful with my energy management, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Rock Tomb number 2 being thrown into the Cradilly. This should be able to put them into range where an X-Scissor definitely will knock them out. They don't expect the combo play. If they shield this move up, I have another one ready to go. If they no shield, once again, I can throw charges into whatever they're going to come in with. If it's the Azu that comes back in, then at this point, I'm going to go for one charge move, try to Shadow Claw them all the way down. If it's the Drapion, instantly throw a move. It is the Azu. I'm going to build up back-to-back charges on our Golisopod. This should be able to put them into a Shadow Claw downrange, but honestly, they are pretty close to another charge move. If I can't knock them out with Shadow Claws, I will have to throw energy, and it looks like I am going to be forced into throwing the charge move against this Azu. With that said, we still have that Earthquake on Clodsire. All we need to do is get the final shield from this Shadow Drapion. I go for the Aqua Jet. Our opponent, I think at this point, they have to no-shield this. They have to try to survive this move. But if they do, they're just in fast move farm down range. Yeah, you see they do go for that play. They try to survive the move because I do have that Earthquake loaded. But now Bullet Seeds, Poison Stings, and Shadow Claws, all resisted fast moves into Shadow Drapion, will add up quite a bit over time, and they don't have anywhere near enough energy to survive the fast move onslaught, and we're able to win that game. GG there to our opponent. Our next matchup is a Galarian Weezing in the lead, a very good matchup for a Poison and Ground-type Pokemon. They say swap another thing that we don't have a hard answer to here with a Shadow Sableye, but while Shadow Drapion's a very tricky Pokemon to deal with, Shadow Sableye is a little bit more formulaic. All I have to do is get a shield here by going for an Earthquake and then come into Golisopod and potentially drain all of their shields and energy that they have. In comes an Earthquake. We took a foul play for our troubles, but we're still above half HP, so that Weezing is still in a bit of a bad spot if it comes back into our Poison-type Pokemon. In comes a Charge Move. It could be a Power Gem. I shield it up just in case, but they go for a foul play, which, I mean, that's pretty fair. I think, honestly, you always just go straight foul play into a Golisopod, unless you really expect them to no-shield, and now Aqua Jet is going to be reached. It's going to draw the shield, actually, from the Sableye, and now I would assume their Switch Clock is going to be up in just a second, but I do have a full Aqua Jet ready to go. Foul play comes through, we get that shield, and they do go for a catch. I could have instantly thrown the move, actually, which would have been pretty nice to snipe down that Sableye, but because this Weezing comes back in, I can go for this Aqua Jet and try our best to chip him down. In comes the Weezing, or in comes our Clodsire, rather, into the Weezing, and while Overheat would do a lot of damage, I don't think it knocks us out quite yet, or if they have Brutal Swing instead, that's even better for us right now, where I can, instead of doing anything too crazy, I can survive this move over farm and survive another Brutal Swing, get as much energy as I can coming out of this matchup, and we should be in a pretty good spot. In comes our next move into this Weezing. It might be enough to knock him out here after the Aqua Jet and Shadow Claw chip damage. It looks like it is. In comes the Shadow Sableye. I am almost out of Sludge Bomb. They're going to be forced into throwing energy, and because of that, I think now we can outpace with our Golisopod and potentially knock them out with a charge move in just a second here. Golisopod is going to come in. It's going to be able to reach an Aqua Jet before they can do much here. We are actually already at a charge move, which means X-Scissor will be thrown. It will knock out the Sableye, and now, depending on their final Pokemon, we should be in a pretty good spot. With that said, it's actually a Guzzlord. I'm not sure I'd survive long enough to reach an X-Scissor, but either way, as long as I debuff this Guzzlord before they can get off a couple more Dragon Tails into our Guzzlord, or into our Golisopod rather, we should be in a pretty good spot because the Dragon Tail damage is going to be incredibly debuffed. In comes our first Rock Tomb. This is going to potentially come close to two-shotting here, depending on how good their Guzzlord is. It looks like as long as I can survive long enough to reach another Rock Tomb, we should be able to knock out this Guzzlord, or if we don't somehow, we can swap back into Golisopod and Shadow Claw, maybe even Exeter to knock this Pokemon out. Brutal Swing, not enough damage to knock us out here. Rock Tomb once again being thrown. This will be more than enough damage to put them into a nice fast move farm down range, or just straight up take the KO there. GG to our opponent, Cradilly, closing out that endgame. Honestly, I'm going to be completely real with you guys. This was not a perfect team. You saw every single time I saw a Shadow Drapion, this team did kind of struggle. On the safe swap, that thing is so annoying. Even on the lead, my Clodsire is not a great answer to it. So this team is pretty fun. I do like Golisopod. I don't know if this is the perfect team to use with it, though, but we were able to end the day with a 5-0, so this team does have a lot of play. You can dance around Pokemon like that Shadow Sableye, like the Shadow Drapion, but they are a little bit tricky to deal with if you aren't prepared for them. So keep that in mind if you want to try this team out. But it was a lot of fun, and Golisopod proving why it can be such a powerful pick. All right, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and you want to see more content like this in the future, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.